October 27th, 2009, a bare-bones multiplayer battle arena game is released by the people behind Dota, and it takes the world by storm. Logically, that would make League's 10-year anniversary October 27th. But marketing and money has always been more important to Riot than anything that may be genuinely meaningful to their player base, so fuck it, October 15th is apparently the date. In this video, I'm gonna go through every blunder and fuck-up that has tainted the Rift over a decade. League of Legends Clash of Fates originally launched in alpha with only 17 champions. We got the first ever winter map, they added the store to the game. This was the catalyst of a series of events that would eventually lead us to loot boxes, $30 skins, and heavy pandering to the weeb demographic. But we'll get to that. The game is officially released to the public with 40 champions and it catches on like wildfire. This was back when Freak was commentating professional League of Legends on a potato mic in 240p without a webcam.
He's really fast, he's an amazing gank ability as well, and he's just really awesome for things like that.
We had the old Summoner's Rift and Twisted Treeline. APE was one-shotting entire teams whilst invulnerable, and doctors across the world were prescribing dire stream bonds as sleep medication. Seriously, to this day I have yet to find anything that knocks me out harder than watching this man play Sinister Vladimir in Preseason 2. That shit was potent. This was also the first generation of League content creators, namely Cody POV, Color Ninja,
Sparta!
Video Game Donkey,
Or did it? Oh!
Savage D,
To get stacks for free.
You will be just fine, yeah.
and Stonewall 008.
Alright, it's time for Team Battle Maokai.
By this point in time, Stonewall has made the same League video almost 2,000 times, but I digress. July 13th, 2010, Satan smiled from ear to ear as the first season of Ranked League of Legends began. The same date that all random was added to custom games, leading to the community favorite ARAM game type. The game took home Online Game of the Year and Best Free-to-Play Game, respectively at the 2010 and 2011 Golden Joystick Awards. League would go on to win pretty much nothing significant for the rest of the game's existence. Coincidentally, that is the time period after February of 2011, where Chinese megacorporation Tencent fully acquired Riot Games, and slowly started taking the game in a bit of a different direction. But we'll fucking get there, don't you worry. The Tribunal is added to the game, letting players judge other players' poor behavior. I personally think it was a brilliant system that let the community decide the severity of how people were behaving in the community. I think it truly showed a connection between the company and the players. Now let's fast forward a bit. Beginning of 2012, League is already the most played PC game in the world. Sejuani comes out, that's the first character release I can remember from getting into the game. Although what really shook the balance was Release Rengar, Darius, and Zyra. AP Zyra mid was so unbelievably fucking strong that I believe it ended up being the first champion to get hotfixed shortly after release. Release Darius had an instant cast Q and for the time ridiculous AD scalings. He was so busted that he got banned in tournaments. Rengar could build up all the stacks for his one-shot combo on the golems, which spawned much earlier back then. I remember this fondly, as it cemented the period of time where AD melee characters dominated the oppressive top lane meta. This was also back when one single character could hypercarry to a much greater extent than what is possible today. The counter to Akali was buying pink wards. Champions were coming out every 2 weeks. We had a rune page and could specialize our stats. We could run a goddamn 1% crit rune to cheese the fuck out of people, statistically 1 out of 100 auto attacks, and it was goddamn brilliant. The entire community in this early developing stage of the meta were building all kinds of different shit and trying out all kinds of different combinations of champions. The infamous Wombo combo that was genuinely viable at a high level of play, gold income items, the dodge stat, having your elo actually just be a number, and my genuine interest for the LCS are some of the things that come to mind when I think of this period. It was an innocent time, where people just loved this new game format that all their friends were into, and I think that was truly reflected in the content people made about the game. You could tell it was something they were genuinely passionate about, and people developed their own unique humor around League with their friends. That's how I personally fell in love with the game. I started going to a new school and all my classmates played it. I remember ancient LAN parties of times past, and for me personally it truly was the golden era. Not because the game was better back then, but because I had my honeymoon phase with it, and it was something I had in common with all my friends. Back then, we had this god-awful Adobe Air-based client that was horrendous. Some things never change. We used to have a pretty cool game type called Dominion. I liked it a lot, but it was later removed. Much like Twisted Treeline, Sword of the Occult, and other fun things like custom skins and the Black Enola announcer pack.
Summoner's Rift, up in this motherfucker!
What do we get in return? Epic skins with modern computer effects, fewer hybrid scaling champions, and LCS broadcasts in full HD. With personality-driven brands like TSM dominating this new venue of online entertainment, the player base were effectively distracted from the nuanced change in development the game slowly undertook. About a year later, Riot removes Heart of Gold, gives us Yasuo and the infamous Black Cleaver meta, one of their classic miscalculations. You could literally just build Black Cleavers, it was ridiculous. Little by little, Riot started getting stricter and stricter with how the community are allowed to act out in-game, a direction they would continue to move in for the rest of the game's lifespan. It did make sense because League was getting an immense player base. Millions of people played it, and if I was a Chinese megacorporation recently having acquired a company that was booming like this, I'd certainly capitalize on it. The Season 3 League of Legends Finals is still to this day the most watched esport event ever, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Riot doubled down on the prospect of growing their blooming esports industry. They would eventually overturn the tribunal and silence the people, replacing the perfectly functional system in place with artificial intelligence of the lowest caliber. Now, when I was 16 years old, I had what you could reasonably describe as anger problems. I never saw it as a problem. In my opinion, I just had anger. Whatever, it is what it is. Anyways, I had an account permanently suspended from League, losing all my champions and money I spent on the game and all that good stuff. I had to start all over. It's actually pretty funny. First, I jumped straight to the stage of grief known as bargaining, and I asked Riot if they could unban my account because I sent them a picture of a cute dragon. After they refused, I wanted the account name for my Smurf, which was at the time named UberDanger 6, but they wouldn't delete it. Until I told Riot that I would take the appropriate legal steps. By the way, I was 16 years old, and they immediately deleted it and I got the name, so that's pretty sick. Even though I absolutely was a bit of a twat back then, I still stand by the fact that talking trash was an integral part of this game. The All Chat is a pure study into human psychology, and it's irreconcilable that Riot went so politically correct with in-game communications. From this point on, and to the very day I'm recording this, dying on purpose and writing hehe sorry in the chat is marginally less likely to be banned than calling someone a bad word in the chat. From 2013 to 2015, Riot reworked and nerfed every single popular mid laner to oblivion. Kassadin, Zed, multiple Ryze reworks, Syndra and AP Ezreal come to mind. LeBlanc's rework was so good they undid it. To make matters worse, they also removed Deathfire Grasp, one of my all-time favorite items. Likely due to the item synergizing too well with future champions, but possibly just because they hate us. They also slowly started implementing the several year-long murder of the ADC role. I believe the infamous tank meta where tanks and bruisers could one-shot anyone was also around this time, but I could be wrong. I don't fucking care enough to Google it. Anyways, in an everlasting effort to ignore the game balance and focus on what's truly important, Riot modernized Summoner's Rift and the UI. Whilst I have to admit League definitely needed a visual revamp, I'd also make the argument that to achieve a more modern look, League went from its iconic Warcraft 3-esque cartoony art style with defined ink outlines contrasting vibrant colors and interesting little details to a washed out watercolor-esque mobile game look. I actually really liked the old design. Each tree was its own little model and every little detail made it feel unique. But you know what? It's time to move on. On September 12th, 2015, Video Game Donkey quits League of Legends.
It was at this time that I called this Malphite a fucking worthless, brain-dead, scumfuck bastard, pile of trash, mental dick face.
Donkey was undisputedly the most popular content creator in the entire community. Someone that genuinely made unique content with his own ideas. It's not just a stream highlight, or talking about the new champion coming out. It's not just a dude with a webcam, a smelly t-shirt, and a big Adam's apple streaming on Twitch. It was real fucking content. The game and management thereof had gotten to a point where he ended up venting his frustrations and turning his back on the game. Probably the most iconic diversion from League in the game's history. Maybe except for, when all those women left. But we'll get to that. Riot's response? Fucker champions like Gnar, cinematic trailers, team builder, and extensively enforcing the meta. Oh yeah, also, skins, and lots of skins. I think this cements the time period where Riot truly prioritized the game's perfect balance at an extremely high level of play over what would be enjoyable to the average end consumer. They took out items like Sword of the Occult, who for 99% of the player base is an underpowered item, but under very specific circumstances could be overpowered with some of the best players in the world, and to a lesser degree constituted what Riot deemed unfun gameplay. even though it was the year where League of Legends had over 100 million unique users a month. I think it's fair to say that 2016 may have been the worst year for League thus far. Yorick was a fringe pick, but an incredibly fun and unique champion to play casually, who was replaced by a bargain bin Nasus with a discount Annie ultimate. Tarek was a tank carry pretending to be a support. He could carry whole games and was an extremely flexible pick. Riot turned him into a basic cleric heal slot with pretty much his entire useless kit stolen from Omniknight and IO and Dota 2.
I am no longer the man I once was.
They may have fixed his Dorito feet, but they took his soul. And that's barely scratching the surface. We got the infamous Mastery rework, leaving us with an overtuned Warlord's Bloodlust that made Yasuo a massive problem. Riot looked at all of this and said, "If you think the first tank meta was bad, you haven't been paying attention." Champion releases were few and far between, and the content creation scene for this game sure was expanding at a high velocity.
This is a low gameplay. You can chat to people. You can chat to people not the team. And we get like different champions.
So many people flocked to make videos and stream this game that it quickly became oversaturated. In the beginning, people could make the dumbest things with no effort and get tons of views, all because content was scarce. But now that we had 4th and 5th generation League content creators, it became competitive. Match that with YouTube's infamous daily video algorithm that lasted well over a year, and you have the catalyst for the dark ages. We had the big ADC buff patch, which brought many well-designed features. From the people who condemn toxicity in their own game, we bring you single-button spammable thumbs up and the removal of 11 items. We really are on the dystopian timeline where Riot implemented loot boxes and hextech crafting, which brings us to the rise of Tyler 1, a man who sternly disagreed with a lot of Riot's vision at the time. No matter how many times they banned him, this man just kept playing. And through his sheer unrelenting primal fucking hatred, he garners a cult following so massive that Riot can't ignore him, which breaks their public narrative of what the League community is like. People aren't all esports enthusiasts who seek out self-improvement every time they hit the rift. It's not all GG sunshine and happiness. People fucking type 4 letters in the chat and ping ER. I'm not fucking about. I've experienced these people for 7 years, and I can at the very least speak on behalf of EU West when I say Riot's punitive system is not in touch with the end consumer, considering the slightest shit talk is fucking bannable. But we're not done. They removed Grave Cigar, add chroma skins, say to Devourer was a real thing that happened, never forget, along with countless other extremely overtuned items and characters over time. They fucking added Zoe to the game. Are you serious? What's all this hextech crafting e-commerce store? I have all these useless things I don't care about. All these points I'll never use. All these pointless fucking icons. But it's a good many years since you could reasonably build an Infinity Edge randomly and have decent results on a good chunk of characters. Everything has been reworked and redesigned. For better or worse, it's really hard to avoid the clearly enforced meta. I'm not very informed when it comes to this, I'll admit, but it feels like in the earlier parts of League's lifespan, the game was more open and you had a plethora of non-meta ways to enjoy the game. It's probably a terrible idea, but I've always suggested that League should have a casual balance set that you can queue up for, but that's besides the point. I have to stay on track and highlight every massive blunder that has occurred in these 10 years. Next on the list is Riot's unfortunate PR incident following the massive walkout over alleged sexual misconduct. I can't speculate, only bring you the facts. Riot have throughout the company's existence promoted leadership positions to men that women were just as qualified for. They've had issues with interrupting women during meetings and not listening to them full stop. In fact, a Rioter had her pitch turned down just for the exact same idea to be pitched by a man a couple weeks later, where it was met with praise. There's been a multitude of proven cases of sexual misconduct, which I will not describe in greater detail due to a minor spike in intelligence. In total, over 150 people were part of the walkout. Riot and the women settled in court, and then it quickly became old news. But it is ironic that the people who will ban their own players for being inappropriate in a game chat apparently couldn't create a work environment without sexism. Allegedly. So anyways, the company sold out to a Chinese mega corporation, check. They've ostracized their most popular creators. They recently had a massive PR blunder due to sexual misconduct in the workplace. And just when you'd think they were done fucking up, they add bounties to the game, along with a 600 gold invulnerability item and prestige skins. Fucking special, pay all your money, get a border skins, and cute doggo skins. Come on now, Riot. What the fuck? Riot thinks they can regain the bad dad status they used to have with their own players by buying out Tyler 1 and including him in the LCS. But alas, that ship has sailed, as the community clearly demonstrated with their reaction to the implementation of Eternals, which is essentially achievements that you have to pay money for. They actually wanted our money for stat track. Riot Games don't give a fuck if they're slowly ruining the game. It's all about LCS advertisements and anime skins, and when you think you've seen it all, team fight tactics. Going full circle, Riot yet again does the same thing as Dota, much like how League came about in the first place. This auto chess battler is the latest trend, and with this you don't even have to play the game. You just place the characters. They coded these characters teamfighting into our brains over so many years, and now we just click a button and the characters fight each other. It's completely brainless, and one of the worst things ever of all time. I played more than League of Legends. These days, Riot makes the voice actors sign non-disclosure agreements so they don't become mini-celebrities in the community. I miss the old days of like meeting the voice actors and shit. That was really cool. I might just be a bitter bastard and I've likely missed a ton of shit, but off the top of my head, these were the things that stood out to me in the last 10 years of League of Legends. The experience is subjective, but from my perspective, League was never amazing. It was just really fun because it's something I had in common with my friends. The game has become this weird amalgamation of greedy marketing and questionable design decisions. Couple that with our fading interest, and it makes a great sense why playing this game isn't very high on my list of shit to do. Back in the day, they'd come out with a new guy, and you'd be like, oh, cool, new guy. Now, they redesigned the entire game around the next bastard on their list. Seriously, who thinks Silas, Zoe, Kiana, Yumi, and reworked Akali provide anything but shit and feces to this game? Why does every new champion have 18 abilities, 4 dashes, their passive is a fucking novel, and they're all as a minigame, with a series of insidious, poorly designed, grueling tasks and challenges that you have to complete to even deal damage? Hit the enemy 3 times, land a skill shot, gather all the Dragon Balls, and sacrifice your virgin daughter, all to deal percentage max health damage, which naturally scales with a completely irrelevant stat the other skills don't even utilize. What happened to he's just a fat guy that throws a barrel? After 10 years, Riot finally managed to make a client that has even less functionality, adds extra steps, and uses up an unreasonable amount of memory. In this dystopian, chaotic timeline, Riot have partnered with almost every single League content creator left. And that's why almost everyone is making nostalgic, positive content for League's 10-year anniversary. It is for that very reason that I made this video, to manifest some level of balance in the universe. Riot is an awful company, and League is a mediocre game past its prime. Mark Merrill says, "Grats on having a career revolving around the free game we made." Now, he may also have deleted the tweet, but when you think about it, he wrote the tweet after he sold out to a Chinese mega corporation and included loot boxes, $30 skins, and heavy pandering,
and removing all the fun
treating
items,
women poorly,
and only supporting
and done stupid changes,
and took out
moronic
all the fun
custom
items,
sold out to Chinese mega
and changed all the fun stuff,
and removed all the stuff,
and ostracized all the good creators.
Yasuo. Anyways, here I present you with my absolute final rating of League of Legends.
But they're really good. It's a fantastic game. You can get lots of money to build your characters. You can chat to people. And they go to like these monsters and everything you can fetch. That's good. No.
Bitch, till my heart stops. Hitchcock mystery. I'm trying to make some history. Want my kids to have a world that doesn't love misery. Already got the company. Black pays all day. My fan base drives me. You are why I'm on pace. Raise the bar so high that it is humbling. I never liked limbo. Reminded me of Gumby. Dodging all the blockheads. Poking at my options.
They even ruined Earth. Terrible company.